subject to judgment. You know, at what point does an amendment become a full-fledged revision and vice versa? And I think the other part of the discussion is, what will the Coastal Commission accept as an amendment that doesn't look at the entire town plan? Or at a certain point, do they say, no, we're not interested in tinkering with individual things, we want you to do the whole town plan? And over the years, I believe the county has gotten some different messages from the Coastal Commission in reaction to individual cases and reaction to reviews that the county has done. And so it's hard at this point in time to really determine what the Coastal Commission's reaction might be to something that might move forward. But I wanted to lay that out because a lot of what the concerns are is whether people think we're actually amending or revising the town plan. And at this point in time, today, the recommendations that are before you are ones that can be taken without amending it, although some of them do set up for direction to be given by the board for future amendments or revisions. So hopefully that kind of a preamble is helpful as we move forward looking at the individual recommendations. So are there any questions on that?
So I guess for the process part here, we'll, after public expression, we'll take these recommendations, we'll go through them from top to bottom, one at a time.
That would be my recommendation. You know, I'll go through them now and give you the background on how we developed them and why we're putting these forth. Then, yes, I think public comment would be fit at that point.
When you review this, I think just briefly go over them, and if there's any question, as we come back to them one at a time, we can address specific questions.
Okay.
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 And just for members of the audience, we'll have a public comment time here, but as we go into each of one of these, because this is an important issue and a lot of folks come from a long ways to get over here, we will, at each one, I'll give the public an opportunity to speak on each individual one if they so desire. It's going to take a little time, but I think it's worth getting it right.
Okay. So the first recommendation has to do with setting a methodology around the data for updating the tables. And the recommendation specifically says that in agreement with the Mendocino City Community Services District, the county would utilize their data, but they would, and their records, but they would align the designations in their records to match definitions in the Mendocino Town Plan, and then there would be periodic reconciliation. So we have talked with the Mendocino City Community Services District, and they are willing to enter into that kind of an agreement. And the reconciliation of the records, when we refer to surveying actual uses, does talk about some of the reconciliation refer to that Jessica performed, which is looking at the business license records, looking at the TOT payments and other kind of independent sources of data. But the idea is to get something that's grounded, that's in the community, and that is consistent over time. So that's the first recommendation. Any questions on that?
No, before we move into that, is there members of the public want to comment in general? Sure, come forward. Can we do that?
I think you might want me to just go all the way through this first, otherwise.
Okay, well, that's what I'm saying. Why don't we just go on through them then and
that's what I'm
reserve the
doing.
questions until we come back to them
Okay.
individually.
Okay, so I won't even let you ask questions.
Yeah,
Okay.
right, okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
So that's the first recommendation. Second recommendation is to direct the planning team to update those tables with the data from MCCSD that's been modified by verification, and then return with the actual table for the board to approve it. And we believe that can be done in the next couple of weeks because a lot of that has occurred, and because we've gotten a lot of input from the community that points us to specific parcels or places that need additional verification. So between those two things, we can hone in fairly quickly on what needs additional verification. So that's that particular recommendation, and those are 3 tables where we believe the data can be updated and that it does not require amending the town plan. Okay, moving on. Recommendation 3. It's recommended that the board approve the application of the 13-to-1 ratio to the increase in residential units over a specified time period. If you'll recall, in the data review report that Jessica presented 2 weeks ago, that report listed a variety of interpretations of that 13-to-1 ratio. It applies specifically to vacation home rentals and single unit rentals. And the interpretation that this recommendation is based on, it was in consultation with county council's view of what the most likely interpretation of that data was. And it is applying it to the increase in residential units from an initial number to the current number. Okay. Recommendation 4 is simply then taking that and plugging that into a formula. And actually, for purposes of the discussion later, recommendations 3, 4, and 5 all fit together. So you might want to take those all together. So in